Hello friends, welcome back to the bench, the back end of blackhorserepairs. Now, we finished our last session on the submission form, and I did a little bit of work around configuration. As you can see, the bench fee says it's required, right? But we didn't want to require bench fee, right? Also, when you submit without filling the required information, you get the list of errors. The form doesn't hold the data. That is a pain if you encounter the validation error. I'll solve that problem later. It's not a big deal. I will either hold the form in session, or the other solution would be to handle post and get in the same action. Then when we receive post, we process the form. If the form had some issues, we validate it. And we return that form every time, right? So that's why sometimes having the single action that handles post and get gives you that ability. Personally, I like to keep them separate, but then you have this issue that you can't really juggle the form object because you can't pass it through the URL. I mean, technically you could pass like some kind of token and store the data and store the form on the backend, but the views, typically when the views communicate with each other, they just use session. So in this case, I can just store that form in the session and just load it in the get action if you have opened form, and just fill it out. No big deal. Anyways, the requirements. So this is our config, where we can set the repair shop name and everything that we will have to configure in the application. It'll be configured in your local file actually. So this file just overrides everything that is in this file, but only the values that you want to override need to be in this one. So we can remove the requirement on the bench fee, which will go back to being optional, and when we submit, it will no longer tell us that the bench fee is required, because it's no longer required. We can also disable the bench fee completely, and now we only have contact information, issue description, and address. Address also can be disabled, which will make your form just two fields. There will also be another configuration value that will allow you to, if you want to go with the easy form with just these two first fields, to just show them expanded, not collapsed. Because if there's only two of them, there's probably no point in making them collapsible. But that's pretty much it. So where we at right now is we are submitting the form to tickets controller. We perform the validation. We don't store, we have that to do over here. We validate the form. We return back to the page action in case of errors. And if there are no errors, so let's fill out the form. blackhorserepairs and ECM misfire, right? And everything else is optional, right? You don't even need to hit save if the form is opened like this. It's still right. It's just a form. So the this next and all this bells and whistles on the front end, it's just way of displaying the form. This is basically a regular form. So anyways, when we do submit it with required information, we're making it here. This is where the magic is gonna be happening. So today's session is gonna be more interesting because now we have to make the tickets actually submit. So for that reason, let's close everything that we don't need. Oh, so the configuration, as you can see, I'm just using the Cake native configuration. I mean the configuration engine. It's basically an a PHP array. That's our config, and it's loaded by Cake. We load it in Bootstrap. If it exists, I mean, we load the main configuration, bhr config. Let me just show it to you here. So we load this file, and this one, if exists. So this one is optional. So if you don't have this file, this will be your main configuration and the only configuration. And this one just overrides everything that you want to override from the configuration. This file is outside of the Git repository, because that will be your local file. If you make any changes over here and then update your application, you might have some conflicts, right? So that would be that would be a pain. So if all the configuration, local configuration, goes to a local file, there's going to be obviously the environment variables that we'll pull in. But that's for the later us to figure out. Okay, let's go to application and see what we have. So as you can see, I deprecated the storage service. The storage service is deprecated because, well, storage, right? It's a very broad idea, right? So it doesn't really tell us much. What we have in this class is fetching products. So this is mocked, right? This would be pulled from the database because it's the user that wants to add the products and stuff, right? But for now, or for the purpose of testing, I just mocked the products, right? And these are the services that I typically do. And the prices for them. The prices are in cents. And the next thing we can fetch Hesk user. That is what we use when we display the payment page for the customer. We greet the customer, pulling the name from the ticket, and we can fetch the Hesk ticket as well, and we can fetch open tickets, open Hesk tickets, right? So this class seems to be mainly dedicated to Hesk. So my idea is that I will probably just rename it to either Hesk Bridge or Hesk Storage, or maybe I'll come up with something else. So we're not going to use this storage. We're gonna deprecate it, and we're gonna use a new shared service. And that service will be called ticketing service. Let's call it ticketing service. What the ticketing service is going to be able to do is create tickets, fetch tickets, update tickets, pull open tickets, pull tickets assigned to you, all that kind of stuff, right? So this will be our primary storage, or our primary access to the storage, and this will be considered a domain object. So we're not gonna have we're not gonna be processing forms. So this will not accept forms. It'll accept domain objects. So we're gonna need some object to represent the ticket, and that ticket will be given to the ticketing service for persisting. First, let's create a constructor that will accept database service. Let's just call it database. We're gonna need the database access, N. See, I'm using the two different instances for two different services. I was always contemplating maybe I should just declare the database over here, right? New database service. And then just give each the same instance. I'm not sure if that would impact performance, memory usage. Well, definitely memory usage, but database service is like the smallest service we've got here. So we could just as well just use the trait, the locator aware trait. But then, as I said before, all those methods for fetching tables and stuff will be accessible from the outside. And we don't really want that, and we don't need that. Okay, so we're gonna need ticketing service. And ticketing service, first thing that we're gonna need services. So we're gonna need that object that will represent our ticket. It will also validate the data in the ticket. We do have validation on the form, yes, but we also want validation on the domain side. So let's do just that. I'm just contemplating where do I put this object and how do I call it. Let's create the directory and let's call it the domain objects. We can always rename it later, but the longer you go, the harder it tends to get when you have to rename stuff and especially move stuff. Not everything will be done for you by the IDE to just find the references and update them. Sometimes you gotta do a little bit of manual work to achieve that. So it's best to come up with the names that you're going to use. But it's hard. Naming things is really hard, or at least it is challenging to me. So we're going to need a ticket. So ticket is... Oh, we're going to have a conflict in name. Not actual conflict because it's a different namespace. But it'll be confusing for us because we're going to have an entity and a table called tickets, table called tickets, and an entity called ticket. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess we'll. Oh, but yeah, this will. Oh no, because the service provider or the ticketing service will have to use both. In that case, I know what I'm gonna do. Okay, but first, let's get this. We're gonna do private string name on ticket, or let's just call it name. So that's the person that submitted the ticket. Email, title. Those are the three things that we require in the form, right? Then we don't need stuff that we got from the form. Not all the stuff that we got from the form, like whether you want to pay a bench fee or a standard shipping. That doesn't concern our ticket. That only concerns our ticketing controller over here, because if you do want to make a payment, then we just have to create a payment request and we redirect you to the page where you make payment. right? So we're not going to initiate payment over here. We don't have to really do much. We just need to add a payment request. So our payment service should be capable of doing that. Get outstanding, unpaid, generate payment record. And that's the payment record. I want payment request. Create payment request there. Ticket ID, amount, and info, what it is for, right? So this will be simple as that. So let's add our payment service. And we're gonna do this. So if did we get the data? We didn't get the data. So let's do that. Form data will be this get request get data. And if form data, it was called bench fee, was it? Oh, it was underscore bench fee. I believe this was it. Let's check the submit ticket form. BHR description, BHR bench fee. There you go. And payment service tickets controller, BHR underscore bench underscore fee. So if this evaluates to true, and it won't exist if it wasn't checked, it will not exist. So you can just check for existence. It doesn't really matter if it evaluates to true or false. If it exists, the user clicked it. We'll do, so this needs to happen after we create the ticket, because we need a track ID or ticket ID to create a payment request. So we're gonna do payment service create payment request, and we have ticket ID, amount, so this will go from configuration, configure, read, and that will be bhr config that now let's go to bhr config because I forgot already. Bhr config ticketing bench fee. That's our bench fee, and bench fee is in end, so all good. The default, let's do the default $35. And so we read this, and we need info. Info will be bench fee. Now, do we need to, because this will return a new BHR payment request entity. Do we need it? We don't really need it for anything because we just redirect. So let's do this. Payment requested. Payment requested is only gonna be true if our bench fee is there, or BHR, what was it called, shipping, oh, we only have bench fee, we don't have shipping. So what was it called? So we don't have it in the form because these are not requested. So let's see our submit ticket, and let's go to the bench fee element. and BHR shipping fee. That's what we called it. So if any of these are defined, there. Why does it say Boolean expression can be simplified? I don't get it. Is this gonna work? No, it's not gonna work, because if... Or maybe it will. Okay, let's leave it like this. I'm not sure. We are in the PHP 7.4 compatibility mode. Yeah, I guess this will work. So if request no, form data BHR shipping fee so I'm just doing false over here and in all these the default to false, so we don't generate the notice that the key doesn't exist in the array. That's all. It would still work even if because it will evaluate to false anyways. So we want to go to payment service and create another payment request for ticket ID. Did we have the shipping fee? Yes, shipping fee. Okay, so let's read that. Configure read BHR config ticketing shipping fee, and it'll default to $25 just in case. And shipping fee, is it fee or shipping charge? Well, whatever. What is wrong here? This is wrong. Okay. And if we have if payment requested, we're gonna redirect to the payment make payment URL. But to do that, we need to check our routes. Which one is make payment? Process payment, make payment. What is this called? It is not called anything, so let's call it what would be the prefix here? Let's just call it make payment. So we want our router URL name make payment, and ticket ID will be ticket ID, and that's all we gotta do. So now if the user submits the request for payment, the two payment or however many payment requests will be created, and the user will be redirected to the payment page where the user will see the what I'm charging the user for, and we'll have an ability to just click process payment and or go to payment page and input the credit card information or whatever you're using, and the payment is done. Then you're redirected back to that ticket. Alrighty. So now we need a ticket ID. right? Because right now it is mocked. So our first order of business is to create this object. So we're gonna keep it simple. So for now, all we need is a name, email, and title, right? Actually, hold that thought. Yeah, we don't need the shipping address and all that stuff. And actually, the shipping address will not be the part of the ticket. It'll be a relation to the shipping record somewhere, right? We don't want to keep it on the ticket. But on the other hand, we don't want too many relations. Let's keep the structure relatively simple and basically intuitive, easy to maintain. Oh, actually, I can just do this. What was it? Alt, insert, and constructor, and like this. And alt, insert, getters, like this. All right. If I got paid for every line of code, that's how I would be coding. You know, that would be easy money. Auto generation of everything. So this is our domain object ticket. Now, ticketing service. Oh, before we do that, yeah, let's do ticket ID. Ticket ID, and we can do private and record ID. So record ID will be our primary key from the table tickets, right? That is optional, as you can see. So it will be null in the state where you just created the ticket and hasn't been persisted yet. So let's do public function is persisted. That will return bool, and right, so it'll return true when the ticket ID is not null, which means the ticket is persisted. And why is that important? Well, we need to know whether it is persisted or not. Otherwise, it's no bueno. If you send it to the persist method and it's already persisted, it already has a ID, then we don't want to persist it again because we'll have duplicate. Okay, so did I add it to constructor? No, I did not. So first, let's do string ticket ID. So that will be our first one. And the first field that we actually require, right? Because I was thinking maybe this would generate the what do you call it? Will generate the ticket ID, but no, you're gonna have to. So the service is gonna generate the ticket ID, and you're gonna provide it over here to the domain object, and then send it back to the service for persisting. And we want record ID. So this record ID will be record ID. Update there. So this is our ticket. So we want to persist ticket. We want the ticket from the domain, and we'll return ticket, persisted ticket. Do we need anything more? we will need probably customer information, so shipping address. Let's go to domain object and let's just mark our shipping address. Actually, do we need, no, we don't need that. Okay, let's rename it to just address. Why just address? Because we're gonna have a shipping address and maybe we're gonna have billing address. Maybe we're gonna have some other addresses. So, well, the object is called address, but in this case, this will be our shipping address. It's not needed for anything yet, but I just want to have it there because I know I'm going to need it eventually. And this is it. So this will throw, which is fine. Now we want to have a generate ticket ID. We don't need any arguments. And this will return string. So this will be our ticket ID that will be generated. So going back to the ticket controller, in the tickets controller we want ticket ID will be ticketing service generate ticket ID. That will be our ticket ID. Then ticket object will be new ticket, new ticket, and we have ticket ID, we have now request the form data BHR name, was it? Submit ticket form. BHR name, BHR subject, BHR description. Our name, email, title, which is called subject in the form. Here it's called title. Let's rename it, because we're gonna be making that mistake. Let's call it subject. So it's called subject everywhere. So the second one is email, form data BHR email, and form data BHR subject, and description form data BHR description. Was it description? Submit ticket form BHR description. Okay, perfect. And let's default the last argument. Let's default it to null, so we don't have to provide it, because why would we? Okay, so now we have a ticket object and ticketing service persist ticket, and the address will or just mark the object. So this is our persisted ticket, and that's it. That is it. This should work. So if there was payment, we redirect here. If there was no payment, we just redirect you to success. That's it. Now we just need to make it work. To make it work, we need to bake. We need to do some baking. Let's do some baking. We need table tickets. So let's go to bin cake php bake migration, and let's call it bhr tickets. Oh, what happened here? Argument 3 passed to connect must be type of array. What? In routes? Do I have a issue in routes? Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, because I used connect over here. So, yeah. Options, yeah, default, yeah, defaults. So the last argument is the name of the route, but only if you use get, put, post, patch, options, all those. But if you connect, right, if you use method connect, that connects every single method, every single verb you can use on it, which means you need to do this. It's a pain, but well, what are you gonna do? That's the way it works. Now we have our migration, which is in config migrations. Let's add it, and this table and table name. Table name will come from configuration, bhr config database tables tickets, and the default will be bhr tickets. We're just gonna do this. Now let's go to bhr config. Since we are defaulting it, we don't need to add it, but let's add it. Tickets, and it will be bhr tickets. There. Now our table is configurable. That's one of the other things that I added before. The ability to configure the table names. This is always a pain, especially when you build something like this. This will likely be used the way I'm using it right now. You have your old ticketing system and you perhaps want to migrate. So at some point you probably want to have perhaps different schema for different project, and that would probably be better. But perhaps at some point you will need to have both applications in the same schema. And there's a good chance you already have a table tickets, you already have a table users, you have a table, I don't know, addresses or anything like that, or you know, descriptions, emails, anything. There's a good chance you're already gonna have some tables that will create the collision. So just for that, you can configure each table name as you wish before installing the application, so before running the migrations. Now this by default, this will have in ID the primary key integer ID, which is what we want. So let's add column which will be ticket ID. So this is the equivalent of truck ID in Hesk. I want to call it ticket ID. This will be a string, and limit on it will be, I want to keep tickets the same I have them in Hesk, because I already got used to it, and oops, that's the wrong browser. And those tickets, let's go to Hesk local, and actually let's go to admin. Oops. and my super safe password, which is admin. No worries, this is just local instance. Oh, change your password because it's kind of sucky. Yeah, imagine that. So the ticket numbers are 3 characters dash 3 characters dash 4 characters. Okay, so that gives us a limit of 3, 6, 10, 11, 12. So let's do 15. I don't like to be exactly at the edge of it. And null, no sir. No null, because it wouldn't make sense to have null for that column. This is what identifies the ticket. It cannot be empty. So now, actually, before we finish this, let's go to our ticketing service, and let's, since we already have all that, so if empty ticket get, oh, I didn't add the getter. I forgot to add getters. Getters for ticket ID and record ID. There. So if our ticket get ticket ID is empty, we're gonna throw. We want to have a dedicated exception for that, so let's just build that. Domain objects, directory exceptions, and let's add generic invalid ticket data. Extends exception. There. So new invalid ticket data. Ticket ID is required, right? And we'll do the if ticket is persisted, the same invalid ticket data. Ticket is already persisted, right? Just some sanity checks. Which means now this method throws invalid ticket data. Right. There. I just wanted to have that done because I would forget later. Or actually, I wouldn't forget later, but I know I can have that done at this point, so I want to have it done before I do any other stuff. So first, we're just gonna eliminating fringe cases and making sure that everything, all the data provided is correct. Like eliminating those easy cases where something's missing, something's not provided, then that means we don't have to do anything, right? If you didn't provide the ticket ID, there's nothing we have to do because we're not going to store that ticket. So the next column has to be the name, and that will be a string, and let's do null false because we require that, and we need to worry about the size. Let's not worry about the size yet. We probably should, but we need email. That is also type of string, and null. So it's also required, and subject. Add column subject type string, and also required. Now we have an ID. We want to add timestamps with default as they go. The timestamps will just add the created and updated columns, and also the triggers and behaviors that will update those that information. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about the ID. Everything's done for us. And what else do we have in the ticket? Name, email, subject. We have ticket ID. Is that it? The description. Okay, the description. Do we want to keep the description in the table? Actually, we don't. Oops. We don't. But there's a funny thing about text fields. And is it called text? Let me confirm that quickly. Text, yeah. So the text columns, is it, yeah, this is nullable. So let's do null true. Right. So funny thing about text, since the text is not determined, there's no limit, because these strings by default they will have I don't remember what it probably also depends on the database, but basically even though we didn't provide the limit for this, the limit is there. It's maybe 255 characters, whatever, or ASCII characters. So if you use multi-byte encoding, that might be more. That might be fewer characters that you can fit in, depending on how many bytes and the particular character requires to be encoded. So these are within our table, right? So we have a certain limitation of how many columns we can have on the table, and that's not the limitation of the number of columns, it's the limitation of what the maximum size of the record can be. And that is configurable, or at least in some engines, because in MySQLi, I didn't find, not MySQLi, what am I saying? SQLite that I use for local testing, right, for unit testing. I haven't found the way to go around that. So if you have huge tables that work in a regular database, you want to run them using SQLite for the sake of unit tests, and it won't run because it says that the column, not the column, the record is just too big, too much data, can't process it. And in my experience, it only happens on Windows for some reason, doesn't happen on Mac or on Linux, interestingly enough. However, the text column is not held in the same table. There's actually physically another, well, not table, let's call it a file. There's physically another file that holds all that, and it's kind of like a relation, like foreign key relation. And the reason for that is because you need to have deterministic sizes of everything in the database, so you can physically go record by record. So to store it in the database, you need to have all the sizes, all the data defined. If the data size is not defined, it needs to be in a separate file, because otherwise that would impact performance hugely. Because you wouldn't be able to seek the database. You would have to always go sequentially because you don't know what the offset will be of each record. And if the records have fixed size, you can go to the nth record in the database, and that allows you to be a lot more efficient. That's why text columns are held somewhere else. And let's create it, and we're done. So this is our ticket, BHR ticket table, at least for now. Likely we will actually let's do that. I'm not going to be using the typical relation yet, maybe, or automated relation. But I do want to have that column, which will be address ID, right? So we created an address, and we want to join it to the, we want to, relate it to this ticket. And that will be integer. And null is true. We allow this to be null, because you might want to create a ticket without providing the address, because you're not sending anything yet. You just want to ask a question, or you want to, see what's up. I think this is it. I think this will do for now. If there's any more columns that we need, we'll just add another migration, right? We'll add another migration, or we can, it kind of depends, because we can just update this one, and I can just remove it from my database, remove from the log, and just reapply the migration. And personally, I like to have, when I develop a feature or something, yeah, I start and this is my migration, and then I figure, oh, I need something else, and later even more. And it turns out that one feature of mine has 3 or 5 migrations. I don't like that. At the end, when I do end up with 5 migrations, I just put them all in one migration, and I want my feature branch to have only one migration. There's really no need to create multiple migrations, since these migrations have only ran on your local machine, nowhere else. So, for simplicity's sake, or at least I see it as simplicity, because then I can easily find your migration for your feature, right? Anyways, let's do php bin cake.php migrations migrate. And let's create those tables, or one table, bhr tickets. Let us see it here. It will have a nice prefix, so now all the tables, all the bhr tables will be next to one another. Okay, this is the schema. So as you can see, we have an ID added by the framework, and we have created at and updated at. Right, you can update them, or you can override what you want them to be called, right? They default to created at and updated at, and without time zone. That's what I prefer. No time zones in my databases. There are benefits of keeping time zones in the database, but there's also a whole lot of issues with it. So I prefer to just keep it simple now. Everything in the database is in the single time zone. That also causes some other issues. Very fringe cases, but yeah, it causes issues, and it's pain. Especially, you want to create the record, or like you create a calendar event, right? Next week at 8 a.m., right? My time zone. We convert your local 8 a.m. to UTC, GMT, whatever, and we store it in the database in that format. But this weekend, we'll switch time. And when we switch time, we physically change our location. Like I'm in GMT -5 right now. In winter, I'm in GMT -4, right? So even though I haven't physically relocated, as far as the time zone is considered, I have changed the location, which means that meeting that I set, or the event that I set on the calendar next week for 8 o'clock is actually going to switch to 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock, depending on whether we went spring forward or our fallback. So these are some things to consider. Hopefully you don't have these problems. Unfortunately I do, so I have to consider stuff like that. Okay, we have a migration. Migration is baked. So since we're almost out of time, we have 5 more minutes to conclude 1 hour session. So let's go to ticketing service. So now we want to persist the ticket. We did the validation. This is not persisted ticket, and it has a ID, ticket ID. We can validate the name, email, validate whether the email is correct. All that should happen here. To do. Oh, they're gonna be mowing the lawn. That's loud. Validate required data. And why do we need to validate required data? Because the database requires it. We don't want to bounce off of the validation of the database. And actually we wouldn't, because we have BHR tickets table. Oh, right. I forgot. Yeah, I ran the migrations, but I didn't actually bake my entity. So let's bake model BHR tickets. Now, BHR tickets table. Yes, let's add it. And we have validation default over here, right? So track ID, max length, require presence, not empty string, and all that. So we will bounce off of these validators if we try to add the record to the database. So the database won't actually validate it. We validate it over here as well. So there's a fair amount of redundancy in that case, right? Because if I check it over here, it's only for the purpose of throwing a dedicated exception. But even if I don't validate here, then my table will validate it. So let's fetch that table. BHR tickets and oops, so tickets table and BHR tickets table, right? So from the table, tickets table, what was it? New entity from array. So let's do ticket to array, or let's call it to persistence array. And let's add it. So this will return an array. So we have, we only want to add ID if there is ID. No, actually, because if it's null, yeah. This ID, ticket ID, record ID, right? Then ticket, what did I call it? Okay, I gave it, right. I probably should have stuck to the snake case, not camel. That's too bad, because now it's gonna be confusing. But well, what are you gonna do? So ticket ID, yeah, this should have been snake case, and I should have just stuck to snake cases. Yeah, well, this ticket ID, yes. Then we have name, this name. We have a email, this email, and we have subject. Oops, subject. Why do I not have a subject? What subject. Oh, because I called it title. That's why. Subject is subject. Yes, and updated that, created that, all that. We don't need it. Yeah, that should work. I'm not sure, but it should work. To persistence array. So we have our entity. Yes. So we go to table, tickets table, save. Now, if there was a validation error, the save will return false. So if we got false, actually, let's do this, because we will have to return that ticket. So let's do, yes, entity equals false. Entity is, oops, ticket save. Right, and now if the entity is false, we want to throw invalid ticket data, some data, and the ticket was invalid. We can retrieve that validation result and present it to the user perhaps, but at this point we have enough validation in the form and everywhere that this most likely will never happen. This will definitely return true, because at this point we're working on the relatively clean data, especially once we add additional validation over here. But all that data has been validated by the form already, so most likely this will not be an issue. Do we return? Oh, because we returned the main object. Okay, so yeah, that's the wrong ticket. So let's do return. Yeah, I guess we need to return new ticket, right? And there's going to be ticket ID. So entity, right? Because our entity is ticket bhr ticket entity. Yeah, or bool. Yeah. So entity ID, right? Entity name, entity email, entity subject, oops, description, entity description, and the last one, record ID. Oh, right, entity ID, and this is ticket ID, not ID, not entity ID. Okay, so now we're returning the ticket. Okay, if that works, we're kind of done here. We don't need the form, tickets controller here. So we persisted the ticket. Let's surround it with try catch and just return this flash error, and let's just do regular error, which is something went wrong. And get message and return redirect Where do we redirect? The same place we came from. So this place. There. Okay. So if the ticket has not been persisted, right? Now, the only thing that we need for this to work is implement this method. And there are several ways of generating strings like that. So let's do this. First part, second part, and third part. So this is gonna be 2 characters long, 2 characters, no, 4, what was it? No, 3, 3, and 4, right? Was that it? 3, 3, and 4. Perfect. I already got used to this format, so I want to keep it. And we want our pool of characters, right? So we want A and B and C and D and E. I think we have the full alphabet. I believe so. Let's see. Yeah, there's Y, yeah, X, all of that. Okay, I will not be finishing this, but this is just for, right. So plus the numbers, or maybe we could, yeah, no, plus the numbers. So let's just annotate it as complete this. And now, so the first part will be oh crap, how do you do it? There was a way to just randomize well, we can randomize the array, but we want to retrieve only 3 characters in this case. So let's go to PHP generate random string fixed length random string generator. The first answer on Stack Overflow from, when was this? 2010. Okay. Okay. So let's do this. I will copy this method or this function and make it into a method. Public static string there. Okay, and we don't need this. Yeah, so we do random end, which is unhandled exception. That's fine. That shouldn't throw anyways. Yeah. Okay, so turns out our characters need to be a string, not an array. I thought I needed this as an array, and probably, hang on, yeah, because you can use this annotation to just kind of reach into the character. Yeah. Okay, so it will be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, JKLMNOPQRSTUV XYZ. Did I do it right? And like this. So these are our allowed custom the characters. So self generate random string, length 3, and characters here. First part, then self generate random string, also 3, and characters, and third part is 4 characters long, and we want to return so we want S, yes, and first part, second part, third part. Oops. There. So this should work. We're gonna add some unit tests just to make sure all of this works. I'll probably do that later, but we're already, we're past our hour. So we're a little longer again in this session. But this now should work. We don't know if it works or not, and we're not gonna test it in the browser. First, I'm gonna write some unit tests and confirm that everything works here. But to run unit tests with the database, we need to fix Bootstrap because we disabled the migrations, because migrations don't work because we don't have the test database configuration. So I'll do all that to make sure everything works. Although, this is for the test debug kit. There should be commented out configuration somewhere. I think somewhere here. Test. Oh, there's no test. Okay, so there's no test database whatsoever. In which case, alrighty, slight interruption. Anyways, I think we can stop at this point. We have pretty much the heart of the system sketched out, and now we just need to make sure this works and do some unit testing. Until the next session, I guess. Before the next session, I will have all that figured out, and we're gonna start actually submitting tickets, creating addresses, and what we want are the messages between the repair shop and the customer. And I have a great idea, or at least I think it will be great. In my head right now, it seems like a great idea, but once I create it, we'll see of how to style it. It's gonna be way different than what I have in Hesk right now. And I think it's going to be different from other solutions that use that. Few ideas there. We'll see how it's going to go. But for now, this is it. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one.